All right. Well, we are continuing to talk about the mission of God for the family. And we've been in the middle of talking about what builds and rebuilds fellowship. We've been talking about uh, what uh, what is fellowship, reflection of the life of the Trinity in our families, and then we've been talking about how to build fellowship using First Peter 3, where he's talking about finally all of you be of one mind, right? Be of one mind, right? Be in fellowship together, and how does a family all stay on the same mission together? How do we pass on the mission of God to our kids? And we started by talking about what Peter says as having compassion for one another, right? Knowing one another, understanding one another. And then he says, love as brothers, right? So he's going to describe how a family should be. He says, love as brothers. And he starts by saying, be tender hearted, which we looked at last time. Be the opposite of hard hearted, ready to forgive. And then the next one he says is be courteous. Now, being tender-hearted has to do with the kind of posture we take towards one another, the responsive attitude of love towards one another, readiness to forgive. But courteous has to do with being purposefully loving, or it's setting out to be caring and loving and towards one another in purposeful ways. And this is something that we don't really have what would be considered a courteous society. Courteousness is not something that is valued in our society. Being purposefully loving, setting up systems and ways of honoring one another, that sort of thing. And so this is one that's going to be a tough you inculcation as a family, but it's also going to be something that we have to think of in terms of building courteousness over time, because a lot of the social benefits, social uh, the social aspects of support for courteousness are just gone in our society. And you actually seem a little strange if you are trying to be courteous towards one another. But if we start in our home as inculcating a courteousness, where we say we're going to set out to be people that express our love for one another in on purpose, out of where we build habits, build ways of dealing with one another in the mundane details of life that are courteous, then we really actually have a huge opportunity to stand out as reflecting the fellowship of the life of God. Well, and it starts with the little things, doing the dishes, putting things away, picking up after yourself, or little courteousnesses, um, little aspects of being little ways of being courteous. But it also is something that we want to inculcate in the ways that we do things. So, one example of something that my wife and I have done in this respect is the way that we do birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, uh, those sorts of things. We have tried to, we wanted to teach our kids how to express honor, right? How to explain what they mean when they say that they love someone or that they respect someone. Right? We wanted them to be able to put it into words. It's not something that just comes naturally. Some kids more naturally than others, especially boys. It's something that's hard for them to learn. And so what we uh, started instituting at birthdays was something that was really awkward for a while, because courteousness is not viewed that this sort of way in our society. Is um, when we're having our birthday dinner, our birthday picnic, is we have a set of questions that the birthday person answers. What was your favorite thing you did this last year? What something you're looking forward to next year, and what way do you want to grow in this coming year? And they go through those things. But and then everybody that's there goes around and says something that they appreciate about the person that's being honored, whether it's Mother's Day or a birthday. And what's amazing is for years it was long silences waiting for our sons, our children, to develop the ability to say something, right? So they would think about it, they would uh, put it, and then they would try it, and it would be awkward and it was hard, and but it was something that now we know was absolutely worth it because now they're teens and in their early 20s, and they're able to put into words what it is that they appreciate, what it is that they respect about one another, right? They would had to learn how to look their sister in the eye and say, "I love the way you do this. I love this about you." Look at their brother and say, "Here's something I really respect about you." And it's it's easy to because of kind of our post Nietzschean uh, the West uh, with the understanding of the way that Nietzsche put together our Nietzsche put together a system of communication, a cultural communication, in which he said that it swings back and forth between the Dionysian and the Apollonian. The Apollonian is a well-controlled, self-controlled, and the Dionysian is spontaneous, right? And that this swinging pendulum of expression is something that he tried to identify and say this is the way that cultures grow and change. Well, um, because of that, we think that spontaneity is more honest, right? And that's the way that that's just an assumption that we pick up along the way. But uh, if you want your spontaneity to be courteous, then you have to train it through non-spontaneous means. There's nothing wrong with spontaneity when it's righteous spontaneity, but you don't get good spontaneity through spontaneous means, right? You have to go through training. And when you have 4, 5, 6 year old, 7 year old boys, and you're trying to teach them how to put their feelings into words, how to put their appreciation, their respect, their love into words, it's really a hard process that involves a lot of patience. But one, it's a skill that they can learn and develop, and it's something that it was my wife's idea to to use birthdays in this sort of way. It was a great idea, and I'm really grateful for those awkward moments of being patient with them as they tried to figure out how to express uh, respect and love for their siblings in courteous ways, right? So the so it, that courteousness is it's setting out to purposefully build into the way to the expectations of the home, the way that you do things, the liturgies of the home, the setting out to put in respectful love and affection into the way that we do things, right? So the boys standing and waiting for all the ladies to sit down, at dinner, those sorts of things. But you want it to flow out into the day in day out mundane aspects of life, and teach and train your kids and develop those habits yourself, of putting others before yourself, of considering others as more important than yourself. And it's everything from helping them see that if they just put their dish in the sink, somebody else is the one that has to pick it up, all the way to if you take your mom's car out, make sure you put gas in it when you bring it home. That those sorts of ways of keeping the fellowship up, and a lot of them, those were things that I had to learn just by stumbling around when I was a newlywed. We got married really young, and which has its huge benefits. But one of the one of the benefits is you're pretty immature and unformed, and you get to form those habits together. Um, one of the difficulties about getting married young is you haven't formed any of the habits of courteousness yet, and so you have to form them by failing to be courteous to your wife. But it's an important discipline, to love on purpose, right? To look at the way that you set a home up and think, set your schedules up, so everything, and say, how are we going to love on purpose? And it's a lifetime process of growing in love towards one another, courteousness towards one another, and and love in the details, the mundane details of life. So, uh, tomorrow we're going to be talking the about the next thing that he says helps that Peter says builds one mind in a community, which is not returning evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, because of the way God treats us. But these details are this is what Peter gives us when he says you want to build a community that's in fellowship, you want to build a community that's of one mind, that's on mission together, and he gives us these sorts of details for a reason, right? Because these are what really do actually build or rebuild fellowship, whether it's fellowship for the first time in a new family or fellowship in a family that has broken fellowship and you're rebuilding the fellowship. It really comes down to growing one thing at a time. You know, with courteousness as a good example, if you just say from now on, everything we do is going to be courteous, you're actually never going to get there. You don't you know, if you're cleaning out a backyard for the first time in years, you don't say, well, I'm going to start by getting everything right, right? You say, well, first thing I'm going to do is mow the lawn, right? And then we'll see what's next. What do we find when we mow the lawn? And then you trim the edges, right? And then you go out and you prune, right? You do one thing at a time, and as you do that thing, well, for one, it's less overwhelming, right? If you've got a really bad yard, and you say, I'm going to clean it all up, you'll never get started. But if you say, I'm going to just start by mowing the lawn, see what we find, you just pick one thing and transform it. With courteousness, just I would start with just one thing and transform it. Or if after every meal, the dishes are being left, start there. Or we're going to just start with adding something to the way we do holidays, right? We're going to start with one thing and then establish that one thing and then add one more. Establish that one more thing and then add one more, right? You don't have to you don't actually transform all at once. That's just not how it works. So pick a thing and pick a courteousness that you want to add to your home, and then as a husband and wife uh, get on the same side of the courteousness. Be ready to be tenderhearted towards one another and towards your kids when they are bad at it, because all new things, we always start bad at it. And then dive in and just add one new courteousness, one new mundane courteous aspect to your life until and just keep doing it until you have changed the tenor and the expectation of the way you guys communicate to one another throughout the rest of your life. So courteousness is an important part of growing in one mind together. All right, well, back to Mara, or I guess the beginning of next week, to talk about not returning evil for evil.